This episode is sponsored by Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Upcoming featured entertainment includes The Steel Woods on April 26th and Little River Band on May 3rd. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Stage and screen legend Nathan Lane received Signature Theater's Sondheim Award at the Anthem in Washington, D.C. on Monday. He joined me to discuss the honor, as well as his memories of Sondheim and the 30th anniversary of The Lion King. Hey, Nathan Lane. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP in Washington, D.C.
Well, nice to be here. Thank you for having me. Gosh, you have a lot of energy. Yeah, you've had a lot of coffee, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. Well, when you watch Timon at age 10 or something, you learn from the best of how to have energy, but so much coffee, yes. But we're here talking about your Broadway career and your Sondheim collaborations because Signature Theater in Virginia is honoring you with the prestigious Sondheim Award. It'll be held at the Anthem, a big black tie gala performances on April 29th. So what was your reaction when they said you'd receive this award? I mean, it must have been a big honor.
Yes, well, of course. And then you start to feel very old. You start to think this is the kind of thing they gave Angela Lansbury. So no, of course, Steve was a hero to me, and I was very lucky over the years to work with him many, many times, and so it has a real significance on a personal level too, just to be getting this. And somewhere Steve is laughing, but yeah, it is a lovely honor, and I'm happy to be coming to Washington.
Well, we're excited to have you. I want to go into some of those times you worked with him in 1 second, but real quick, just bigger picture, like Sondheim songwriting genius. Like, what do you think was the secret to his magic?
Well, I mean, he was drawn to really interesting and surprising subjects, and I think, he's sort of known for being brainy and intellectual and sophisticated, but I think he writes about what people are going through, and the longing and the loneliness, and he writes about the human condition. So in all of the stories that he tells, that's what's going on. It's about people trying to connect and yeah, he's just, an extraordinary, his musicianship, his lyric writing, which was extraordinary as well. That's, have made him, the person who truly changed the face of the musical theater.
Absolutely. You know what I like about your response was you kept saying rights as in present tense. I mean, and that's kind of cool because we lost him in 2021, sadly. But I think you're right. The music is present. It's past, present, future. It will live on with us. He'll always be around, including at this event for you. So that's that. I like that it's rights, not wrote. I like that.
Yeah. It's hard to speak about him in the past tense. I mean, he was somebody who, even when he had gotten to 90, you just, you thought he would be around forever. He was, and played such a huge role in all of our lives, in especially obviously people who work in the theater.
Absolutely. It's a body of work that will live on forever. All right. Well, you sort of teased it, but I want to hear some memories of your specific roles that you work with him. I know, I guess you won your first Tony in the 96 revival of Sondheim's A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. So yeah, I guess memories of meeting with him and working with him that very first time. Obviously you knew of the legacy, West Side Story, et cetera, all the great shows, but your actual first chance getting to work with him and win a friggin' Tony.
Well, a frickin' Tony.
Frickin'.
I I first I didn't I met Steve it was 1989. It was I did the workshop of the musical Assassins, and that was the very first time meeting him. And he, when we read through the script on the first day of rehearsal, he played the songs for us, and it was, and he was incredibly kind and generous and just so supportive and helpful in learning that material. And then for I mean, we worked on he wrote a few songs for the film The Birdcage, which ultimately there was only one that was used, but and then
Hilarious movie, man. You and Robin are so funny in that movie.
oh, thank you. But the Forum, when I was in high school in 1972, there was the first revival of it was on Broadway, starring Phil Silvers. People might remember him as Sergeant Bilko, and he was actually the person they originally wrote it for, but he had turned it down. And so he was doing this revival. Bert Shevelov, who co-wrote the book with Larry Gelbart, directed it, and they had all won the Tony. They won Best Revival, and Phil had won for Best Actor, but they weren't selling tickets. And so they did a a free Fourth of July matinee, and people lined up. And I went over with a couple of friends and stood on this line in blazingly hot sun, and
Yeah.
we went all the way around the block from the entrance to the Lunt-Fontanne. And we got to the door, and I walked in, and then they closed the doors on my two friends. They had reached capacity when they
Wow.
got to me, and I stood in the back and watched him do the show, and the audience, because everyone was there for free, was extra excited to see Phil Silvers, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced in the theater. So that had always stuck with me, and so to be doing it, to be playing that part in a new revival was incredibly exciting, and yeah, no, it was just that show is just fun. Although it hasn't been revived since. I think people for some reason find it politically incorrect, or it is set in ancient Rome, so there are slaves and there's courtesans
Sure.
who live next door. But anyway, it's a wonderful show, and it was a very exciting time, and and Steve was as usual. That's really what I think about when I think of Steve, is what a great collaborator he was, and how much fun he was to work with.
That's a great
Even
story.
though he could be intimidating, you know, when you think, oh, he's going to give us a note or two, and it was, but he was always very compassionate and wanting to help actors.
It was probably always a good note too, most of the time.
I would say yes.
I
Yeah.
love that story of you barely catching the door of getting in, and your friends didn't even get into the original. That's hilarious. That's awesome. Well, you worked with him. You're talking about collaborating with Sondheim. You worked with him again in The Frogs in 2004. You all, you revised. It was obviously an older show, but you brought it back and you starred and I guess revised the book, and he sort of revised some lyrics for it.
He wrote 6 new songs for
Wow.
that version of it. Yeah.
Remind her, because it was a pretty wacky story. Wasn't it like George Bernard Shaw coming back from the dead with Shakespeare in that original one? They're like battling.
Well, I don't know how much time we have, but it's based on the play by Aristophanes.
Yeah,
And in the play, the god Dionysus goes down to Hades to bring back a great playwright to speak to the ills of society.
Yeah.
And so in the original, winds up being a debate between Aeschylus and Euripides. And then when Bert Shevelov came up with this idea at Yale, he did it at in the Yale swimming pool with the Yale swim team playing the Frogs.
That's great.
And they only did it there. It only played for like 8 performances. And Steve said the acoustics were so terrible. It was like doing a musical in the men's urinal. It was, it had not been let's just say it had not been terribly well received in 1974.
Yeah.
But Steve had, as a favor, Steve had written these choral numbers because he was a great friend of Bert Shevelov. And then there was for his 70th birthday at the Library of Congress, we did a short version of the Frogs. That was a part of the program. And I had ad-libbed something, and he said, where did that come from? And I said, oh, I just made it up. And he said, he said, Bert would have liked that. It's very much in his style. And so that kind of stuck with me. And then we recorded the Frogs, that short version of it. And when I was listening to it, and it was after 9/11, and I thought, I wonder if this piece, from 405 BC and 1974
Right.
could speak to what's going on right now in society in this very politically divided time. Of course, when are we not in a politically divided
Right.
time? But so I approached Susan Stroman, who I had worked with on the producers, and then we went to Steve and said, would you be open to writing some new songs for the characters? And he was, and so we set out doing that at Lincoln Center.
That's awesome. Yeah, you mentioned Susan Stroman. You work within the producers, and she's a 5-time Tony winner herself. But she is on a list of people who are going to be at this thing at the Signature Theater at the Anthem, the Sondheim, that will be sort of paying tribute to you. I think, well, it'll be like a This Is Your Life, Nathan Lane, a little bit with some of these performances, because I think Tony winner Faith Pierce is going to be there.
Faith Prince.
Faith Prince from
But
Guys
Faith
and Dolls.
Pierce might be there too. We're hoping the Pierce.
Both of them will be there. Yeah,
both of them. Yeah,
I have faith. No, Faith Prince, who won Best Actress for the 92 revival of Guys and Dolls. I guess that was your first Tony nomination. Will be there performing. Krista Rodriguez, who was the Wednesday Addams to your Gomez in 2010's Addams Family musical, she'll be performing as well. And then James Caverly of Only Murders in the Building. You had that great father-son duo in that show. I think he even won an Emmy for The Boy from 6B. But yeah, like, talk about how it's going to be wild to see this parade of co-stars of stage and screen, sitting there. What's it going to be like? And are the memories going to be rushing back, as you watch all these cast of characters?
Yes, sure. I've been through this before. Yeah. I've been getting lately a lot of these sort of career achievement, lifetime achievement awards.
Yeah.
It's like show business's way of saying, I think you got enough. Look, it's always it's lovely, and it is nice, so nice of these people to take the time to come and do this, so I always feel a little guilty that they've been imposed on to come and do this, but it certainly is very moving and touching that they want to say something, and that our work together has meant something to them.
Absolutely. And just a follow-up on James in Only Murders in the Building, because we actually had him on, I think. Obviously the deaf actor did a performance of Music Man, I think, at Olney Theater nearby. But our local audiences remember him. And when he was when we tuned in to see the show on Hulu, we were like, oh my gosh, that was the actor from the show here. Just memories of working on that, because that must have been an interesting, I don't want to say acting challenge, but working with a deaf actor and doing such a nice bond between father and son. That was one of the hearts of that first season to me. But memories of working with James.
Oh, he's an extraordinary young actor, and I was so impressed with him. I mean, for myself, when they asked me to do it, I was like, yeah, sure, Marty and Steve, and it'll be a lot of fun. And then, as it was revealed that this was a darker character than I was expecting to play, and then they explained that I had a son, a deaf son, and we'd be communicating in American Sign Language, and I said, wow, okay. And and I only had about 6 weeks to, it was just obviously these scenes we had, and he was so. I mean, we had I had a coach who worked, a man named Doug Ridloff, a wonderful actor who helped me with all of the sign language, and James was incredibly supportive in me speaking his language, and but I was just so impressed with him because he had a lot of difficult stuff to do. He had a huge he had a scene where he had to walk in. He had to throw up. There was a thing up his arm that went so that it would look like he was throwing up, and then he had a breakdown crying. And each take he was there. He was fully there with his emotions, and I was just he was just he's just an incredibly talented and sweet guy, and I'm very touched he's going to be there.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's good, really cool he's going to be there, and well, all the people that we named there. Obviously, there's no time to go through all of those
Well,
shows.
we
but
didn't get to talk about Faith Pierce because she and I go way back.
Faith Pierce, not Faith Prince. You want to talk about the extra Faith?
The other thing.
Thanks for busting my balls on. I appreciate that.
Sure. Anytime.
Well, what do you want to say about Faith Pierce? Brilliant performer.
Faith Pierce was a pain in the ass. That's all I can say.
But Faith Prince was a great to work with.
Faith Prince is just one of the most brilliant performers, and that Guys and Dolls was a very special production, and it's one of those things where chemistry you can't predict if it'll happen or not, but we just had such a great chemistry together on stage, and it's one of my favorite memories is working with Faith in that.
Faith Prince.
Faith Prince. I never want to work with again.
Faith Pierce. That was not a verbal typo, folks. This is an actual person we're making up right now.
Faith Pierce can suck the air out of a room. You don't want to deal with Faith Pierce.
Faith Pierce, no way. Hey, real quick. I mean, you mentioned Susan Stroman, but I do want to double back real quick to the producers because actually there's another connection now I think about it, because Zero Mostel was in a funny thing happened to the Way to the Forum in the original one that you revived, and then of course was in the producer, so it all kind of ties together. I guess it's all a small world. But memories of doing the producers. What was it like, you and Susan, singing Mel Brooks lyrics versus Sondheim lyrics? That's got to be a different experience.
It's there, I would say they have different styles,
different sensibilities
for sure. Well, look, the producers was just that kind of once in a lifetime phenomenon. It was it was like it was a zeitgeist hit. It was for some reason that's what the audience really wanted. It was a throwback to old-fashioned musical comedy with an emphasis on the comedy, and the fact that Mel wrote the book and the music and the lyrics, that was I think an important part of it. I mean, I don't think it would have worked if someone else just adapted the original screenplay. So that it was just one of those. Whenever we did it, people went crazy.
Yeah,
it was. I think after all of the very serious British musicals, that had taken over, it was something, a Valentine to Broadway, as everyone likes to say. But it was just fun. It was. I remember Carol Burnett coming and saying this. She was very emotional, and she said, "This is what Broadway used to be like. It was like going to a great party, and you and Matthew Broderick were the hosts, and it was something that it only everyone should experience that at least once."
Absolutely. Well, springtime for Hitler and Germany. Like, it was in the movie. It was just waiting to be made into a musical. It was perfect for it. Well, I really appreciate you joining us. You've been generous with your time, especially Faith Pierce. We learned a whole new person that's introduced into the zeitgeist.
Really? Yeah. Faith Pierce. Well, you should have her on the show, but you'll never have her back. I'll tell you that.
She was there when you won your third Tony for Angels in America, I think. I think she was like in the ensemble or something.
She was the one who she booed.
She
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 booed me.
boo-
Yes, she
she
did not.
booed Angels in America. What the?
She did not think I deserved that, Tony. So what are you
Sure.
going to do? But
She
that's
was waiting
fate
in the
here.
audience. Yeah, thought she was going to get called, and instead she sees you go up there.
Right. I know. It's an ugly business.
But you're hilarious dealing with it. So yeah, I appreciate it. I guess like final seconds, I wanted to spend most of this about Sondheim and all your Broadway stuff because that's what you're getting honored for. But the child in me does have to loop it back to Timon in the final seconds. Well, I guess we're in the 30th anniversary of The Lion King now. Hard to believe.
Yes,
94. Yeah.
We're doing in May. We're doing this Elton John and Hans Zimmer. It's a Lion King 30th anniversary concert at the Hollywood Bowl.
Nice.
So Ernie and I will be singing Hakuna Matata.
Oh, you're coming back to sing it live at the Bowl?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Are you gonna is it gonna still be not in front of the kids, or you actually get to say farted at the Bowl this time?
No, I think you have to say not in front of the kids.
Yeah, I think you do.
Yeah.
I love it. And by the way, folks, you do get the intro to the Can You Feel the Love Tonight. It's not just Hakuna Matata. It's our trio's down to 2, all that good stuff. Oh, it's going to be great. Head out to the Hollywood Bowl, folks. Did you and Robin, he did Aladdin. This will be the last one. He did Aladdin right before that. And were you guys swapping Disney tales of, when you're on the set of the Birdcage? Because, Timon and the genie get, cutting up behind the scenes doing that.
We didn't talk a lot about our work at Disney. I mean, I think it came up. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Because he was The Lion King had already come out by then. Yeah. So, yeah, no, we talked about it a little, but yeah.
Birdcage was great, by the way. Amazing. Absolutely hilarious. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us again, everyone. Come out to the anthem for Nathan Lane getting the Sondheim Award presented by Signature Theater. It's going to be on April 29th. So, hey, thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.